I'm ready for a nap.
Why are you tired? You're a morning person.
I'm not in what world do you think I'm a morning person?
I thought you were a morning person.
I'm neither a morning nor an evening person.
You're in bed all day person.
I'm more a night person than what's it called? Like a night owl versus morning person. I'm 100% more a night owl. It's just, I know, not like you, like compared to you, no, but compared to normal people, yes.
Nobody's a night owl compared to me.
I know.
Yeah. I'm up early today. Yeah.
Did you clean your hair? Did you wet your hair? Because you don't look as disheveled as you promised.
I did. I did. And, wearing these headphones kind of covers up how ridiculous I look right now.
That's disappointing. I looked forward to seeing
some
intense dishevelment. Yeah.
Dishevelment?
Is that a word?
I don't know. No, I was up really late, actually.
Why is that?
Working on editing the last podcast episode we did.
Oh, have you slept? Like, did you sleep since yesterday?
I fell asleep like in my clothes from last night, like just passed out and then woke up and did some more editing.
That's unhealthy. Like when I say I'm tired, it's like I only slept 7 hours and I need 2 more. Like, when you're tired, it's like I slept for 35 minutes in my clothes.
I did sleep a number of hours. I just maybe not a full night's sleep.
8 to 10. You need 8 to 10. One night last week, I went to bed at like a normal time. I think it was like 11, maybe 12. And I didn't set an alarm because I was like, I'll wake up. Like I usually wake up around 9 or so. And I had an appointment at 12:40 to get my booster shot. And I guess I had like a really, really good sleep. And I wake up and like the cat's curled up at my feet. And I look at the time and I'm like, 12. Something's wrong with my clock. And I look at my phone and it says 12. And I'm like, oh, that happened. So I slept for like 12 hours.
You had a sleep debt.
I guess. Felt good after that.
I like how that's a whole story. Like you slept 2 hours longer than normal.
3.
Oh, my bad.
Jesus, Josh. Yeah, kind of 2 though. You're not that wrong. Okay, maybe it wasn't a whole story. Maybe you can cut that out.
No, it's great. I like it. Whatever. That's a really intense, dramatic Aya story.
I hate you so much.
I slept right 2 hours more than I normally did one day.
Man. I think for most people, sleeping a weird amount, sleeping for 12 hours is not normal.
It depends on the person. I have learned that like different people have different sleep requirements. It's just a thing. Some people can sleep like 6 hours, 5 hours. They're fine.
Yeah, other people, I'm not. That's like 5-6 hours. I'd be like, I hate everybody and I can't be here right now. I go back to sleep.
I'll tell you this. It's getting harder as I get older, but we've talked about sleep before.
Yeah. So, is that the topic of this week's podcast?
I don't think so.
No, it's not.
You tell me what's going on.
Well, last week when we were talking about your writing retreat, it kind of got me thinking and I felt like, I kind of want to ask Josh about that writing retreat, but that's not the topic this week. So welcome back to Adulthood, friends. This is the discussion-based podcast where 2 former childhood acquaintances, now friends, discuss the things that
adverbia
dishevelly matter.
No, this time this definitely isn't an adverb.
Poopily.
Nope.
Fluffily.
Okay.
The things that fluffily matter.
Fluffily, that's your adverb of the week.
I was just looking at my cat when I thought of that adverb. And I'm Aya.
I'm Josh.
And this is episode 34.
34.
Yeah, of Adulthood Friends. And today we're going to be talking about writing.
Writing.
That's right.
That's right, like WRIT.
No,
right?
I was waiting for you to make that joke. Yeah, no. That's RIGHT.
Oh, okay.
WRITING. So why does anyone write? What kinds of tools, techniques, or environments do you use to write?
Cool.
And that's basically what we'll talk about. So should we get into it?
Let's get into it, Aya.
Is your neck sore or something?
Yeah.
And we're back.
It's so good to be back. And you have to forgive me.
For saying that every time, or?
No, I'm going to say that. No, definitely. That doesn't require any forgiveness.
Oh, it's so good to be back.
It is good to be back.
Every time.
Well, it's good to be back every time.
Every time. We're never back. You know that every time we sit here, we say, let's get into it. And then we go,
oh, I'm sorry. If we're never back, then why are you welcoming us?
I'm welcoming the listener. You're not back. The listener's back.
I'm listening to you.
I'm listening to you. Okay.
No,
I'm listening.
You'll have to forgive me if I do weird things with my head
No.
and neck because of how I slept. I slept weird on it. Now I can't really look to the right.
I'm sorry, you're not forgiven, but
Mhm.
I will note that you asked for forgiveness.
So not only am I suffering, you're not forgiving me either. I got it.
That's exactly right. My neck hurts too. I'm not, you don't see me
Oh, really?
squirming around. Yeah.
Okay. You're one of those people. I get it. I'm suffering, so you should too. I got it.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't even complain because I'm not complaining. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What gives you, no, I'm sure your neck really hurts and I'm sorry. I empathize with your plight.
No, that's cool.
I also have a sore tooth if we're complaining about things. I think I needed a root canal. We should get Dan Botner.
Yeah, my back is a little.
All right. Okay. Tone it down. So today we're talking about writing, not physical ailments.
Unless we're writing about physical ailments.
Unless we're writing, which I mean, no judgment there. Let's start with something fun. Josh, do you think writing is more of a career or a hobby? Or is that too intense to start?
It's not intense. It's just, I think everyone knows the answer.
What? Why? What's the answer?
It could be both.
Oh, yeah. But would you prefer it as a career or as a hobby?
You're asking me, like, what do I
Yeah,
prefer?
you personally. Yeah.
Well, as you may or may not know, I'm a writer-director.
Oh.
Yeah, that's how I define myself, by trade.
Do you have another job?
Right now?
Yeah.
Writing and directing actually is a job for me. I have done and I do other things here and there. I delivered food for a long while. I do clinical trials.
Oh God. So this wasn't a judgment. It's more a question of like you've kind of committed to that as your job.
Yes.
Whether it's making money yet or not.
Yes, I've committed to being a starving artist.
Okay, great. You don't look too starved.
Wow.
That was so mean. This is me on 7 hours sleep. I need that extra too.
Oh my God. Which, by the way, you're a starving artist when you want to write like in America or North America, but there are certain countries where they actually value the arts. So there, it's not like you have to suffer in order to do it because society actually values it and they help you do that if that's what you want to do. But here, yeah, it's something you have to struggle to do as a career. By the way, we should mention, we did dive into this topic to a degree way back, I think in episode 4.
Episode 4 a little bit, and I think it was episode
self-expression,
like 12 or something.
Inspiration.
We did self-expression. We also did inspiration. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, so check those out if you guys want. We're going to dive probably a little deeper into specifically writing.
Yes,
this episode, right? Because for both of us, writing is a passion, is something that matters to both of us. Whether it's I want to do it more as a career, and whether you'll say how you want writing to be in your life. But we should also bring up again the fact that you and I both shared a creative writing class together in high school.
We did. Yeah.
What grade was it?
I think it was grade 12.
Grade 12, yeah.
Yeah, we had a grade 12 creative writing class together. And I remember your short story about a woman who was like in a company breaking the, metaphorical glass ceiling, but she ends up.
It was called glass ceiling.
It was called glass ceiling.
Yeah.
But she also ends up like under. It's
literally, she was literally
yeah,
breaking a glass ceiling. It was like a literal visualization of the idea of breaking the glass ceiling. Yeah.
I remember thinking, man, this guy thinks he's real clever, doesn't he? And it was clever. It was clever.
I don't know. It was
that's very clever. That's clever for an adult, let alone a 17, 18-year-old, however old we were.
Suddenly, you're like, wait, we might have been 18 years old in that
I meant grade 12, but then 17, 18.
I don't know. It actually dealt with a social issue, which I probably hadn't done a lot of writing about at that time.
Did you do a lot of writing even before that?
Personally, so yeah, prior to that class where you and I connected on that, but prior to that, yeah, I was always writing stuff. I wrote short stories since I was like very little. It was always like it was a very significant form of expression for me. I wrote short stories. I had written poetry and I'd written plays back in high school.
Oh, right. I remember that.
That was actually one of the things that I started to see my passion when I wrote this play back in drama class. And then watching that play get performed and, all these actors take on those roles, I thought that was exhilarating.
Yeah. I mean, I think you kind of answered the third part of the question, which I gave you is it a career or a hobby, or secret answer number 3, is it a vocation? And vocation is kind of a fancy word for like a calling, right?
Ew.
Something that you feel called to, something that's your passion.
I mean, that's not mutually exclusive with the others, though.
No, it's not. But it sounds like a better description of how you feel about writing.
Yes, I didn't used to think, I used to write a lot, but I didn't used to think this is the thing. And now moving forward, it's not just the thing, right? Like, I consider myself a storyteller. I like telling stories, and writing is, I mean, a significant way and method of doing that. But writing and directing is what I like to do, and, tell stories in whatever way I can. But yeah, obviously writing is a huge, huge part of that. And it took me a while to realize that that was a major, major passion for me, because there was always so much work involved with writing as well, that it was actually hard to, this is my passion.
Yeah. And do you have like a favorite form of writing? Like you said, you wrote plays, you wrote poems, you wrote short stories, you've written screenplays. Do you have a favorite? Like if you had to pick, you could only write one. What's it going to be?
No, this is hard.
That's hard.
I mean, right now, I guess screenplays, because I make movies. So if I had to pick one, the form that leads to me making a movie might be the best. But I've, whatever the one I'm doing in the moment is the most important, I guess.
There isn't one where you sit down and you're like, time to write a screenplay, and then you're just like, feels like home. Which one feels, which one are you the most comfortable doing?
I'm more comfortable writing screenplays right now because that's what I've been doing for a while. I have yet to write a novel. I've written a lot of short stories, a lot. I'm thinking about actually releasing them as a book.
Yeah, you might as well.
I have actually released, I think we talked about this before, but I have a book of poems. It's called Exploding Glass Staircase, just named after one of the poems. And my friend Natanya Zaini, who also drew our podcast cover, she did all the illustrations in my poetry book. And yeah, it's up on Amazon. You can look it up right now. Exploding Glass Staircase. That was really, really cool to get all these poems, which I wrote over the course of like 14 years, out into the world. And
yeah, that's amazing.
That felt very meaningful at the time. Yeah. But I wouldn't say like writing poetry that's not where I really want to be. The nice thing about poetry is that you can write a poem like in a day, in an hour,
in a minute.
Yeah, you can. Maybe it's a limerick or something. You can write one really fast and get that feeling of completion, that rewarding feeling of having finished a piece of art. It's not as big as something like a screenplay or a novel, but it still has its place. And then when you compile them, they can tell a story. Each one tells a story, but then when you put them together, they might tell even a larger story, which is really cool.
That's true.
And those also especially ask the reader, or invite the reader to kind of really dive into it in their own mind and think about what it means to them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good, and you self-published that.
Yeah.
And have you considered like sending, you said you're a short story, like you have a bunch of short stories. Have you ever considered sending poems or short stories to other publications as well?
I guess I haven't. I've always been one of those people who kind of does stuff myself, and for better or worse, I kind of just make it happen. I never even considered like trying to send it to somebody to do it for me.
I mean, there's not necessarily a reason to. It depends on why you're doing it. If you're just doing it for yourself, then self-publishing makes the most sense.
I always thought like, short stories, poems. I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to write this book of poetry and make a lot of money. Like, I don't know who wants to buy my book of poetry.
No, it's not. And I mean, you're not going to make a lot of money if you publish it in a journal either. It's more just like to get it out there in a different way, right? Because
I just like making stuff. I like telling stories. I like creating. And
why?
Because it's my vocation.
Okay, fine.
So, but let me throw the question back at you for a second, because you, Aya, it's been interesting talking to you about writing, and this is something you and I both connected over, and I think has really contributed to our growing friendship, being able to talk about this shared passion.
Oh yeah, that's what I was going to tell you, because I said something really nice to you on the phone, and then I was like, oh, I should have said that on the podcast.
No.
It was that, like, I think, one of the reasons we picked writing for our topic today is like, I mean, it's one of the things I'm genuinely curious about when I talk to you. And it's one of the things that we really connected on when we kind of became better friends. Like, oh man, I love this person. Like they know all that they care about the same thing. And yeah, I think that was when we really like, oh yeah, this is so exciting. So yeah.
Yeah. And I also really love talking and connecting with other writers, of course, because other storytellers, other people who understand that, it's an awesome passion, but it's also kind of masochistic at times.
What? Why?
There's all these like
you've written a lot more than I have, so I don't know.
There's all these memes and jokes about it, but like writing and getting into that writing mode can be really difficult, right? It can be a really taxing sort of experience. And it also sometimes involves sacrificing your time in certain ways. Maybe it feels even more like that because it's not quite like someone hired me on to do it as a job to write these stories. It always feels like it's replacing something else I'm being asked or should be doing.
Right.
You've seen that imagery of the classic writer, right? He's all disheveled and, smoking a cigar and he's drinking. And
I was hoping to see that today on the Zoom, and here you are, relatively well groomed.
But I should say, after this recording, I do have a writing meeting.
Very exciting.
With my group. But before I get into that, I want to get back to you. I want you to tell me, what is it for you? Is it a passion? Is it a vocation for you?
I don't know. I mean, I think I've written a lot less, so it's kind of hard to say what it is when I haven't really participated all that much in actually doing it. So, it's kind of like, what are you talking about? You haven't done this thing. But there have been times where I've considered like, oh, what if I spent all my time just trying to write? And I think that is a little too, or pursuing it as a career, I think that's too anxiety ridden for me because, well, one, it would be hard to do it as something fun because it would be like somehow my like being able to pay my bills is going to depend on this. Like that's kind of terrifying. And I don't really, I wouldn't want what I do to be dictated by.
To suddenly be work in that way.
Yeah, to suddenly be work or to be something that like I have to do this for money. Like that seemed like if I had to do it in order to support myself, that would be, would it still be fun?
Wouldn't be fun.
Like I want to be able to do it for fun. I don't want to worry about like, what will publishers think? What will readers think? Like, I think that would make it a lot harder to write. And I mean, that's said from a person who finds it hard enough to write already, even though when I am in it, I love it. But it takes a lot for me to get into it. It takes a lot for me to even start. I mean, I never want to do anything. So
I think the secret is it's that way for everybody.
I guess that's true.
It's a constant struggle. It is. And I think for some reason, everybody thinks that they must be struggling more than other people with this. But I think everybody's struggling. Every writer.
Do you though? I don't think you do. You decide you're doing something and you just do it. Like, I mean, let's be honest. Like this podcast would continue to not it wouldn't have happened to start with, and it would continue to not happen.
Wouldn't have happened without you either.
Like if it were up to me, I would have been like, I don't feel like doing it. And then it would stop happening. Like every week, I'm always like that. And I'm like, Josh wants to do it. I'm going to do it. And then I'm happy that we did it. But like, I never feel like it.
I mean, you say that, but you're still doing it. So it is a struggle.
Because at first it's like a sense of obligation. And then I do it. And then people listen and we hear feedback. And then I get excited about different topics. And it kind of like feeds into itself, but
it's kind of the loop of writing though.
It's a loop. Yeah, exactly. It's
but that's the loop. I feel that struggle to some degree. I don't know. Everybody probably feels it to different degrees. And I've disciplined myself in certain ways to keep, that's kind of like a rule that I made for myself, finish what you start. If you make a certain commitment, stick to it unless it becomes really toxic in some way, then don't.
Kind of a loyalty to writing.
Oh yeah. We talked about loyalty
last week. A loyalty to finishing things.
Yes. And we've talked about this before in our other episodes, but it's really important to bring up again, that excitement, that inspiration that we want. A lot of people think you need to feel it first and then you go right.
Right.
But the truth is sometimes you have to start writing and then the inspiration and excitement comes.
No, I think that's good advice.
And so knowing that, I have to logically know that because if I just listen to my emotions or feelings, I might be like, oh, I don't want to do this right now. I don't feel excited. I don't feel inspired. So I've disciplined myself in that way. If you say, oh, Josh goes and writes, I understand that I need to, or I should go focus on this thing, whether or not I'm excited about it. It's almost always the case when I do that the excitement comes. Because once you put work and effort into something, then it comes, just like with our podcast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do believe that's where it maybe comes from for me. But that's just discipline. Like anybody can kind of learn that or think about that logically. Because I want to do this as a career, I've had to take that more seriously.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
And you don't have to. You could just write whenever you're feeling inspired because it's not
I think it's hard. It's also like if you make it a hobby, then there's no pressure. And maybe you need some pressure even just to get started, right? Like, or even to just be like, I don't have a choice. I have to do this. And then you get inspired while you're doing it, as opposed to if it's a hobby, it's like, oh, I have other work to do. I have other stuff to do. It's never a priority, right? So that can be a downside of it being kind of a hobby or a side thing, a side gig.
Well, as we get older, I started to realize that anything I do for fun now, if it isn't contributing to what like my career or something in life, I feel a little guilty. Like I love playing video games. I like watching shows, and suddenly I'm sitting there for a couple hours playing a video game and going, I should be doing something else right now, right? I
Right.
should be doing something. This is a waste of my time. Am I progressing my career right now?
Right.
If you're not doing writing as a career, that's maybe how it sometimes feels. Like if you can tell me.
Yeah, I think it's hard. Like when there are things that I have to do, it's hard to sit down at the computer where I have to be all the time anyways and write for fun when it's like I have an essay to write. Why don't I do that?
Yeah. Which is still writing, we should mention.
Still, oh yeah. So, well, we were talking about types of writing. I mean, you've also written nonfiction. You've written essays before, right?
So I had a teacher back in, or was a professor back in undergrad. Everybody here knows that I have a degree in developmental cognitive neuroscience, right? That's my main degree, my honors degree. But I also did it's not a minor because I couldn't fit a minor in with an honors. You can do like a minor and a major, but I couldn't do a minor and an honors. So I had to do something called a certificate, which is kind of less than a minor. And it was a certificate in writing. So I took a whole bunch of writing classes throughout my undergrad. And one of those writing classes was creative nonfiction.
Oh, creative nonfiction. That's already different, but okay.
Yeah, well, it was called creative nonfiction, but still nonfiction, right? And I remember thinking, ugh, I'm going to hate this. I like telling stories and making stuff up. And I don't want to like write nonfiction.
You felt like that would limit.
Yeah, I thought that would limit me. That was one of the most useful writing classes I've ever taken in my life.
Oh, very cool. Okay.
Yeah, it taught me to dive into my own experiences and find the stories in there, which you do in any writing, I think. I think that's one of the things any writer does.
Cool. Creative nonfiction.
So I have written creative nonfiction in that regard, which means kind of, again, finding the stories in your own experiences and telling those stories, hopefully accurately, but also in a creative sense. It's not a list of what happened. It's telling it as a story that somebody else would enjoy reading and finding the arc, because, a good story has that beginning, middle, end, and we'll probably dive into structure.
But not all writing has to have a story either, right? Like some writing can be proving a point or like suggesting an idea, making a point.
Other types of writing. Yeah, that's the type of writing I like. I mean, yeah.
The type you like is with stories.
Like I said, I'm a storyteller. So that's my type of writing. Is that not just your type?
No, I mean, I enjoy it.
Love writing essays?
I like aspects of it. I like collecting people's ideas and thinking, okay, this is
collecting data.
What it's been like. Not really data. I mean, when you're writing like about novels or my thesis is a work of nonfiction. The article that I had published is a work of nonfiction, technically. I mean, I'm making an argument for something. I mean, it wasn't my favorite kind of writing. I still prefer writing fiction, but I've written way more nonfiction. If you look at it like that, that's all I wrote in my graduate degree.
Is it kind of like pizza? Like even bad pizza is good pizza? Like
I guess so.
Even writing you don't really want to do is still writing, and it's kind of better than not writing.
Yeah. Although you have to be careful with like every word. Like there's a big difference in the feeling that you have while you're writing and the feeling you have while you're writing fiction versus nonfiction. Nonfiction, it's like, I feel like everything that I'm about to say, I have to fact check or I have to like have a source. So if I'm going to say this, I should mention other sources where people can find similar things that I'm not mentioning here, but that are important, right? So it's a very different kind of thinking. But I enjoy that too. I like collecting a bunch of books and learning about something and then putting that into a little essay. And then I feel like, okay.
Do you like the research aspect of it?
Yeah, that's my favorite part.
Because there is a research aspect actually in...
For sure.
Even in fiction, to be honest.
Well, I'm on the research aspect of what I'm kind of writing right now. So yeah.
There you go.
I read a whole book, but sometimes I get really distracted. So I was like, I mean, without going too much into it, but like one of my characters is supposed to have like a family cult background. And so I kind of looked into like the psychology of cults, and like there was this memoir by a girl who was part of one of the Church of Latter-day Saints.
Mormon.
It was one of the more extreme Mormon groups. So there's this book called Breaking Free.
Not Breaking Bad.
Not Breaking Bad. And it's by Rachel Jeffs. So she's the daughter of Warren Jeffs, who is part of like the FLDS cult, if you've heard of that. So
I haven't.
It's really interesting because you get a first person perspective growing up with that cult mentality. And I mean, that's still an active cult. So yeah, but it's interesting. If you're interested in like that kind of thing. Yeah, Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That's what, and they're super crazy. So it's just so interesting. And I was like, bookmarking things that I was like, oh, I would include this in my character and this. And that's a kind of research, or like researching the psychology of it or the different. So yeah, there is research still involved in works of fiction.
Yeah. And that's a lot of fun for a lot of people. I mean, some people don't like it, but I know like my writing partner here, Jacob Tannenbaum, who I've brought up a number of times now.
Yeah.
Not only, I mean, he's so good at this. And it's one of the reasons I love working at him. He's
at writing or at researching?
He's good at writing too, but I mean, he's great at writing. He's a great writer, but I mean, he's great at researching.
Okay, yeah.
That's like a thing. Like I like writing with him because I feel like I like researching, but I'm not as intricate about it as he is. Like he loves looking into every little detail. And it takes up time, obviously, to do this. You're writing along, you write 3 words and go, desk. What kind of desk should this be? This is taking place in the 1700s. I wonder what kind of desk they were using. I would just write desk and let like production design or whatever, like figure it out down the line.
Yeah.
But he's going to look up the exact type of desk and the type of wood.
Oh, that's cool. I don't know that I have that kind of patience. I'm more interested. Yeah. But that's awesome to have someone like that. I mean, that's one of the perks of collaboration, right?
But it's not just that he's looking up that thing. It's where that leads, right? He might look up, if you have this sort of desk, then you have this amount of money. And what does that mean?
Right. It's more than just the desk. It actually
and then it leads in like maybe these types of desks had little secret compartments, and then it gives him some sort of idea to how to use that thing moving forward.
That's cool.
That has its advantages and disadvantages, right? One of the advantages is that I guess
it can slow you down. Is that?
Well, that too, but you can use that research obviously to propel you forward. But sometimes it can also limit you, in my opinion, especially if you're writing a screenplay. If you write something that depends on something so small, then everyone has to, screenplays are not just for you, they're for when you're making the movie.
Right. So, if you specify too much, it's harder for like props.
Okay, well, that's later on. Actually, you know what? No, not just that. But if you make it so specific early on, then your whole story might hinge on this thing.
Right.
And you're not able to kind of change certain things moving forward, especially if you're still trying to like figure out where things are going later on. But overall, it's a great thing to be that type of person, I think, and to research. Obviously, you don't want things to slow you down too much. You want to get a draft out first, and we can talk about that. Like, let's talk about right now. Like,
okay, yeah.
Getting out a first draft of something. What do you do?
I think you're asking the wrong person, because I don't know how many first drafts of anything I have. I mean, I know what I should do, which is probably less self-editing while writing, because like often I'll go back and edit as I'm writing. It's like it's hard to progress when you're doing that, and sometimes it's easier to see everything as a whole and edit afterwards once you actually have something. It's like having like a rough slab of rock before carving it into something better. Like helps if you have the rock first, right? Like
you can't edit a blank page.
Yeah, I could try,
but it's good to have something on your page, right? So just the idea that what most people say is get something on the page, just get it out, write something bad first. It's okay if it's bad, as long as there's something there that you can then manipulate like clay.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the clay, then how do you do it? So that's hard, of course, moving on to the next page when you're not happy with the page you've written before.
Yeah.
I struggle with that. We all struggle with that. All writers do, I think. But that's been some of the discipline to know or realize when you should move on.
Right.
In that first draft.
Question.
Yeah.
Do you use an outline when you write? Because you made me write an outline. You didn't make me, but when at one point, you were my accountability buddy. Accountability buddy. And my first task was actually to have a plot outline, which I was surprised to get from you, because I don't think
I'm like a planning type of person.
I don't see you as a planning type of person. I see myself as a planning type of person. And yet I was like, I don't want to plot out this entire thing. Like that's terrifying. But yeah. So do you do that with your own stuff, or was that just like an assignment for me as my accountability buddy?
So that is some of the discipline that I've picked up over time, right? When I initially started out writing and dove into it, like in a way that I loved, I just wrote. I think like a lot of people do, you just want to jump into it. You don't want to do anything that stops you from writing.
Yeah.
But as I became more disciplined about it, as I decided to take it more seriously as a career, and also realizing, what was actually the most efficient way to get my work done, so I don't get like stuck partway down the line. Yeah, I almost always write some sort of outline now. There have been projects in the past where I kind of just jumped in. It depends. There's different types of outlines, right? I tend to, at the very least, I have like a note section on my phone where I just start writing out all the plot points, the structure of the story.
Oh, you don't do like an Excel sheet the way I did all crazy?
I definitely don't use any Excel sheets. Excel is for you.
Did you like my plot outline though? Wasn't it nice and
it was so
intense
pretty
with all of its like...
It was. What has it led to now?
Nothing. So next question.
I have very ugly outlines sometimes. but they lead to things. So I don't know. I just want to say.
I see how it is. Well, and I mean, like the outline itself can also be scary. And when I was looking for things to kind of help me out, like, oh, where do I even start? I fell down a bit of a rabbit hole of narrative beats, which I'm sure you've heard of, or like story structure, or
we were just talking last week about a beatboard.
A beatboard, yeah, and it's not like it's not like a
beatboxing.
Boxing. A beatboard, a beatbox. It sounds very similar. I think that's an understandable.
So a beatboard is one type of outline, right? There's many different types of outlines you can do ahead of time. Whatever helps you.
Well, that's like a visual type, right?
I mean, it's visual, but it's also, I mean, you're writing on it. It's a visual kind of structure of your writing, but you still, within each of these boxes that you visualize and put in order, you write your scenes. I mean, you write your outline for each scene, your points.
Okay.
And then you, because of the way a beatboard is structured, you can move the boxes around and
I like that.
You can color them different colors so you see different people's storylines.
Very cool.
I actually never did this myself. This is something that I learned in my group that we're working on the TV show that I told you about before.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, well, what are the other things I was just curious about? Because there's a lot of like research, there's lots of books about like what story structures have been kind of pervasive in film and literature and everything. And like one of the ones that comes up all the time is the hero's journey. Or the monomyth, as it's also called. You know, there's a huge influence, for example, on the Star Wars films. I mean, even what's his face, George Lucas, like said so. He's, I read Joseph Campbell's Man with a Thousand Faces, and that's whatever he said. And
have you read all this?
Have I? No, I skimmed a bit of the Man of I'm not that into.
See, I haven't even read all this.
No, but I mean,
I know about it.
Yeah, you don't.
I've read the Cliff Notes.
Exactly. Yeah, that's all you need. You don't need to read it, I don't think. So I was kind of getting a little bit into that, and then I found something called the Heroine's Journey, which, depending on who you're looking at, it can be different.
It's all about the journey of the drug heroin through your body.
Exactly. So it tracks the no pun intended there. It tracks the journey that heroin takes from the injection site through whatever it goes through. No. God damn it, Josh. It's not necessarily like a women's version of the story, but it's kind of a counterpoint to the hero's journey, which is all about like isolation and, strength in isolation. It's this one man going on his journey, or one woman. I mean, it could be a woman too, but
I mean, the heroine's journey isn't it the woman?
Not necessarily. So it can be, it's just, so it's okay. It's not necessarily a woman. It's just a different kind of journey. And like I have a quote if you want, but it's just.
Wait, a man can go on the heroine's journey?
Yeah. It's more so the book I'm referencing here is Gail Carriger's The Heroine's Journey.
Okay.
It's more the beats of the narrative and whether or not strength is seen in isolation or strength in collaboration. So, for example, this author argues that Harry Potter is a heroine's journey, even though he's like, you can be male or female identified, doesn't matter. Is
it really about the male or female or feminine traits that she's talking about in a hero? Why would she call it the heroine's journey then?
Part of it is like, I mean, it is generally considered more of a feminine trait to be more collaborative and to be more
right. So it's more about the trait.
So it's more about that trait, which is traditionally considered more feminine. But I mean, this is a really interesting book if anyone's interested, because she also talks about like what some of the issues of having the hero's journey be like idealized in a way in our society, and having, men feel that they need to be on their own. Like asking for help is weakness. And
so just to be clear, the hero's journey involves, right, somebody.
Oh yeah, I didn't even explain what the hero's journey is. I just skipped.
It's like leaving home and then coming. Well, you can.
There's like. Well, you can say. I mean, there's like this three. So the hero's journey, the monomyth, it's got like the three big things. It's like, so there's like a bunch of steps, but there's also kind of the general outline. But the three essential stages are the departure. So the hero leaves the familiar world behind.
Luke Skywalker leaves his home planet.
Exactly. The initiation. So the hero learns to navigate the unfamiliar world.
Luke Skywalker does that.
And lastly, the return. So the hero returns to the familiar world.
Luke Skywalker comes back.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Good job. And it's followed in a lot of different epic hero books, like the Odyssey and all of those kinds of things are usually like same idea.
Star Wars.
Anyways, Do you find those useful? Like, do you use any kind of plot outline in your, like any kind of traditional story structures or anything? Or are you just like, I'm just going to see what story I want, and, you know, maybe it's implicit in there. Like maybe you already kind of have absorbed all of that stuff from pop culture and don't really need to explicitly sit and be like, the descent, the unfamiliar world.
That's kind of a good way of putting that. I think a lot of us have absorbed that. So I think anybody can go write a story right now and kind of, you know, be in touch with these outlines.
They'll probably inadvertently follow the hero's journey.
Exactly. A lot of people inadvertently follow it because that's just kind of, it's a very satisfying journey to have your characters go on. I never read the book, you know, like the hero's journey. I know about it. I understand the general idea about it.
Yeah.
I used to think I could just, you know, make a general outline of my own, of beginning, middle, end, where I want the characters to be. And that was fine. And then I took this class in grad school. And for those just tuning in for the first time, I have a master's degree in film and television production from USC School of Cinematic Arts in Los Angeles. That's why I'm here now. Well, that's what, I mean, I did it. Now I still live here. But, you know, I went to film school and I took a lot of film classes, and that included screenwriting classes. And one of these classes was called script analysis, which had the most boring name ever, right?
I don't know. It sounds interesting to me.
Maybe it sounds interesting to you. I was like, ugh, script analysis. Like, this sounds irritating.
You're a movie maker. You're a filmmaker. You want something exciting. You're like,
yeah, I want to go
learn
make
about
movies.
Explosions. I don't want to learn about script analysis.
Exactly. I want to learn how to shoot an entire scene in one shot.
Yeah.
I want to do cool stuff. I don't want script analysis. I was like, all right. I had this professor named Irving Belatesh. I heard he was pretty good. I was like, maybe this will be okay. We'll see. What we did every single class was we'd watch a movie. We'd start out by watching Mean Girls, for example.
I love Mean Girls.
Or The Matrix.
I love The Matrix too. Those are great movies. Okay.
We watched popular movies, and it was a lot of fun. Of course, if we just watched the movies, I'd be like, this is not a good use of my money.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Yeah, okay. Like, I could do this at home for free.
So what the professor believed was, a lot of people think that you should read and watch bad stuff to learn what not to do. He believed you should watch the best stuff to learn what you should do.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty common.
Yeah. I think the idea here is, because a lot of people hear that there might be some, there's rules to how I'm going to write. I don't want to follow any rules. That's stupid, right? It's not that it's rules. It is, I think what he said is, it's form over formula you want to learn.
Oh, that's cool.
If you see that all these movies were really successful, you can study what worked and kind of see, are there some patterns here? Are there some things that all these successful stories have in common? It's not that there's a rule of how to do something, but why are all these movies the most successful? Is there something that they all do, or most of them do? And can we kind of try to figure out what that is? And he came up with something called the 8-sequence structure. And ever since then, I kind of have been using this.
Interesting.
Now, do I use it exactly every single time? No, but at the very least, I keep it in mind.
I can't believe this is the first time you're telling me about this. What have you been keeping the secret for however many years?
I've never told you about the 8-sequence structure.
I hate you so much right now. I can't believe this is the first time hearing. Yeah. Okay. Continue. I'm talking about the hero's journey. He's got some secret 8-sequence structure. Okay.
So here are the kind of 8 parts of that sequence. I'll just tell you, right? It starts with the teaser, right? It's to suck you in. The opening presentation, right? It's got that puzzle, the question. And then 2, the status quo. You got to set up who, what, where, when, tell you about the protagonist before the story begins, his or her life. And then 3 is the point of attack. I see. Are you taking notes?
No.
Are you taking notes? Welcome to my lecture.
I'm 100% taking notes. Yeah. Point of attack. Okay. I mean, I'll Google it later and I'm sure it's somewhere, but I also I
can always just like send you some stuff after.
Yes, please. Okay. Yeah. You just do that. Send me stuff after. I got really into like, I'm learning now. I'm going to write notes.
We're in class right now, guys.
What's a nerd? Yeah. We should do that next time. That should be what this podcast becomes. We each just give each other a lecture.
Okay. So 3 is, and we'll just go with it. 3 is point of attack, right? So that's the interruption in the status quo. Something that introduces instability. And that can be anything. It can be an event, a person, a thought, a bong hit, anything.
Did you write a bong hit in there?
I might have. So, by the way, you've also heard that, stories can be divided into acts, right? People have talked about the 3-act structure, the 5-act structure.
The 3-act.
So maybe around here is kind of leading into act 2 after the point of attack, because you have I think the end of Act 1 is this next part is the debate. So the protagonist has to grapple with the point of attack, that destabilizing element. Even if the character doesn't know it, the audience does. And this is powerful because the audience is taken through the decision-making journey, and we're with the character and we're engaged. And then 5 is the lock-in. That's setting up the main tension. And it's not necessarily part of the point of attack. And this is where the protagonist kind of commits to or is forced into, like, okay, now they're on this journey. They're locked in. You know, the debate was kind of, am I going to do this? Am I going to stay or am I going to go?
There's a lot of similarities with the hero's journey or the heroine's journey, by the way. Like there's a lot of overlap between any kind of story structures, I guess.
Yeah. So you can see the debate maybe is, let's look at the Matrix, for example, right? You have that little teaser at the beginning, everybody remembers. You have the status quo, Neo kind of in his world. And then you have the point of attack. What's that destabilizing element? I don't know if you remember. He gets like the phone call. There's some
when he
weird
gets like the
stuff
visit
going.
from the people and the rabbit tattoo.
Exactly. There's some destabilizing.
Follow the white rabbit or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's kind of a debate. You know, they grapple with that, which is basically.
Well, is that the red pill, blue pill?
The red pill or the blue pill, right?
Yeah.
There's a literal like debate right in that movie. Mm-hmm. Do I stay or do I go?
Yeah.
And then he chooses one, and now he's locked in.
Right.
That's the lock-in. Now he's committed to discovering what the Matrix is. And
do it for Mean Girls.
I do have it for Mean Girls, actually.
Do it for Mean Girls. I'd rather, because Matrix is easy. Mean Girls seems.
That's only number 5. So
okay, fine. Oh, okay.
Then you have number 6.
Okay, fine.
Number 6. I know this is exciting stuff for you.
No, it is. I actually really like it.
Number 6 is the journey into the new world. Mm-hmm. So that's the the attempt to achieve,
or the descent. This is it's like
maybe it's the descent.
In the other story structures. Okay.
Yeah, and that's an attempt to achieve the main goal. So like attempt, fail, you repeat, and you face obstacles. Then you have your resolution where the main tension is resolved. I'm not going to spoil these movies for you, but
yeah.
And these are always kind of made up of 2 elements. 1, achieving or failing the main goal, and 2, where the character got his or her need or not. The emotional catharsis, why people came to see your story in the first place. And then your 8th part is the new status quo.
Oh, right.
So if I asked you what it is for Mean Girls, do you think maybe you could figure out, like, what's the teaser? That's kind of before the first sequence.
I don't know. I need to rewatch Mean Girls.
It's okay. We don't have to remember. But of course, you have your status quo for Katie, right?
Right. Okay. So she comes in and
she's never been to school before. That's her problem.
Right. Yeah.
You also got to figure out the want and need, right? What is her want? Her want is to fit in,
to have friends.
But what's her need?
Her need?
Yeah.
I don't know.
A very important thing in a story to figure out is what is your character's want and what is their need. The want is a thing they set up that they think they want in the first place. And the need is what?
To be accepted.
Well, her need is actually to be herself.
Oh, not what she thinks she needs, what she actually needs.
Exactly. That's her.
That's so interesting. Okay. She actually needs to be herself. Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
Look at that. Okay.
Exactly. And then what do we have? Our point of attack is Regina, the mean girl, right? Asks her to sit with the plastics, if you recall.
I do.
And then you have the debate, which is whether to sit down with the plastics.
Right.
Does she stay or does she go? Does she go into that world or not? And then we have this unexpected lock-in.
Which is...
You remember that line? Okay, let's rock this bitch. The scene where she goes through, the agenda.
Where they're planning, they've got like a plot to take down the plastics. That's the lock-in? When she's with like the artsy, her friends, her like real friends.
Yeah. And the third sequence is your new world, girl world.
Right.
And then you got your different like goals and obstacles that start coming up.
Is it easier to look at things and do this retroactively? Like it's easier to look at something that's already done and to be like, oh, okay, this is how they use the hero's journey. This is how they use the 8 sequence thing.
Well, it's good. That's kind of important. That's the whole thing. You want to look at how this thing was done to then help you, right?
To help you, but you can't. It's not always as simple as being like, oh, what's the lock-in? I mean, like, I guess it gives you a sense of what
it can give you a real sense because you can do that with your story. And of course, once you know the rules and you can break the rules kind of a thing, right? If you know what this kind of typical structure is, you can choose not to do it. And there is actually something in Mean Girls that's a little bit different we can get to. But one thing I want to point out, I'll skip a couple of things here, but there's something that's really cool that I learned called the midpoint reversal. You heard of this?
But I don't know what it is. So
it's the idea that whatever happens kind of emotionally at the midpoint is the opposite of what you'll see happen at the end of the movie.
Okay.
And knowing this has actually ruined some movies for me. Like, I won't say which one, but there's this football movie that I watched where midway through the movie, the team won like huge. They won big. Usually what happens in like a sports movie is
this
is
lose,
the point where they lose,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So they won big, and I was like, oh crap.
Yeah.
This is like, you kind of know at the very end of the movie, like they're actually going to lose.
Right. What movie was that?
I'm not going to say because I don't want to
spoil
spoil it for
alert.
anybody who, although this will spoil a lot of movies for you now if you keep this in mind.
Oh.
So the midpoint reversal here is kind of very sophisticated, actually. It's not about Katie taking down Regina. It's about her becoming Regina. Right. She becomes a mean girl herself. So that's actually a little more interesting. Again, you can play with what that means in your script. And now there's like a different type of tension. Like, will Regina be able to bring down Katie? Like, it's now the other, like, things are kind of flipped in this. And also, by the way, there's a storytelling device we can talk to. We have all these storytelling devices. One of them is the Faustian Bargain. You've heard of that?
I know that in Faust, he makes a bargain with the devil.
Yeah. So like the main character willing to give up anything to get what they want. So what makes this one stand out is that Regina becomes the outcast, right? And the other character is a reflection of the protagonist. And, you got your lowest point is that she's failed completely and ends up in the stall again. But then, of course, in our 7th sequence, we actually have what we call a new hope. And
the Star Wars movie, or
no, we're talking about
I'm so sorry. I know.
She becomes a mathlete, if you recall. And you have your 8th sequence, right? And that's your new status quo. Now life is better, no cliques, it's just human.
Nice.
So that was a really quick run through of Mean Girls in this 8 sequence structure.
I mean, maybe you think it was quick.
Okay.
So sorry. No, that was super interesting, and thank you for that. I was just trying to inject some comedy into.
Yeah. So anyways, I do actually use this generally moving forward. I'd like to figure out what's my point of attack.
Yeah.
What is my debate? What is the status quo? Where it often gets the most difficult in writing is that second act. Once you dive into the new world, what are the obstacles?
Right.
How do you keep the story going in the new world? That to me is always the most challenging part of writing.
Interesting.
I always find it's easier to write like the first 20 pages of your script, and then it gets difficult.
That's so cool. So you do use a story structure. I'm actually kind of surprised. I kind of felt like you were going to be like, I just write it, and sometimes afterwards I notice something, but yeah, that's an interesting surprise.
It depends. I don't perfectly make the structure for everything that I do.
No, but you don't need to.
Especially if it's like a short film. I'll just do a little outline in my phone.
Yeah.
Make sure I have all my points, beginning, middle, end. What people don't realize, even if it's a short story or a short script, that structure is still part of that. I think a lot of people make this mistake. They think that something really short doesn't need to tell a full story. And really, it's just that the scope is smaller. Maybe the stakes are a little lower, but it still has to beginning, middle, end. And I get really frustrated when I, read shorts or I see short films where they make these stakes huge. Like there's some sort of setup where it's like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And they can't possibly wrap that up in 5 minutes. And then it just ends with, really just feels like the beginning of a movie, or the end with that classic, ooh, it's ambiguous. I wonder what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But they just didn't finish writing their story. I tend to write my story as long as it needs to be. If that means it's 5 minutes, cool. If that means it's 18 minutes, then it's 18 minutes. If I don't want it to be longer, I shouldn't come up with a story that has a scope that large.
I think it's supposed to be harder to write a short story or a short film than
it depends.
Full length, because it is, in a way, I mean, in some ways it's harder because you have to really condense.
Not necessarily.
Or not necessarily condense something, but like you need to lead a reader through all of these feelings in a
shorter amount of time. Yeah.
Shorter amount of time.
But not, some things might be harder, some things are easier, right? I don't actually find it harder. I think the real challenge is coming up with a concept and story in the first place that can be told in that length of time. I think a lot of people make the mistake of, okay, and then she kills him and now the whole fate of the world is at stake. And that's at minute 3. It's like, how are you going to tell a 5-minute story out of this? So they rush, or they don't actually conclude the story. Tell a story that can be concluded in that time.
Right.
And you're good.
Huh. Okay.
You have an outline to use?
Well, I don't think I've written enough, but I mean, when I had that plot outline, I started out following Hero's journey, but with my own kind of like variations. And then I found this heroine's journey, and I started reading that. And then I put both of them next to each other, and I kind of had like options based on the story that like which one I would kind of pick. So,
you know what they're going to call that in the future? The Dr. Ishai twist.
Sure, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I think I have to write something first.
You got to write the book on that. So that's like,
I think I have to write enough. How about I just try to write something? Because I think I still owe you chapter 1.
You do.
From like 6 months ago.
And this is the whole purpose of us doing this podcast now. You need to finish your fucking book. But Aya.
Well, maybe if I wasn't podcasting all the time. No,
the irony is we often procrastinate I call it productive procrastination. We procrastinate by doing something else that's still useful instead of the thing we set out to do. So it'd be funny if you actually went and wrote a book on writing and actually completed writing a book on writing.
I would be annoyed if I did that. Because it's like, you can't write a book on writing before you've written enough. Like, I have no credentials for that. Like, I think that's silly. Like, when I read a book on writing by someone who hasn't written anything, I'm like, why would I listen to you? You know, like, unless you've studied it. Like, I mean, if they've studied it or something, that's different. But like, you know, there are books on writing that I'm like, I don't like the stuff that you've written. Why would I listen to you? You know?
Well, then you better get your novel done.
I know. I'm in school and I'm teaching. Excuses, always excuses.
Excuses.
Yeah. Look, I think I need to sleep less. I wish I didn't have to sleep so much.
Yeah, it's true. You're going to have to sacrifice something usually. I don't know what it is, but you know, you have to cycle in. If you really want to do something, you have to replace whatever you were doing in some part of your day. You can try to be more efficient, but even then you're replacing maybe your time alone and your time to relax and recover. Something has to get replaced.
Yeah.
Whether it's sleep, whether it's dedication to some school or work or family. That's kind of these sacrifices.
Let's cut that out. It's not really, it doesn't feel like much of a sacrifice. Joking. To any family listening to this. Joking. Love you so much.
That is kind of the struggle sometimes, is what to sacrifice in order to follow.
Yeah.
We only do have a limited amount of time in our day.
We do. It's true. So I know that you went on a writing retreat recently. And that's kind of like outside of the world. It's just us. We paid for this. We better write. So you kind of like a high pressure environment in a way.
Yeah, actually. So I brought this up before, right? I said I'm writing a TV show. So the TV show is currently titled Black Sheep. This is notable because once upon a time it was actually called Unorthodox.
There's a good show by that name.
Yeah, then that show came out.
I'm sorry.
And we had to change our name.
Yeah.
And so we changed it to Miracle Mile, which is actually like, I don't know, people know this. Miracle Mile is like a place in Los Angeles and some other places. I hate that title. I hated it so much. It made it seem to me like a Christmas hospital drama or something.
I like Black Sheep better if that's, yeah, it does kind of sound, it sounds like it should be a Christmas movie. By the way, Black Sheep is a metric song.
Okay, cool. It's a few different things that we like. We're happy about that.
Black Sheep of the family.
It's also a company that sells like pickled garlic or something.
I'm sorry, what? Pickled garlic?
Yeah, it's like a company. They sell pickled garlic and stuff.
Black Sheep? Oh.
Yeah, you can look it up.
All right.
I found it in the supermarket. There you go.
Cool.
It's also a movie from 1996 involving Chris Farley.
It's also sheep that aren't white, but black. It's also a song. Ba ba Black Sheep.
Yes. There's a couple songs.
Josh.
We're never going to get through this.
Stop letting me interrupt you. Okay, go.
So it's called Black Sheep, and I'm much, much happier about this. We're all happier. We're all much more excited.
That's good.
So again, I have a group of 4. It's me, my friend Jacob Tannenbaum, Tamar, and Ofair. I brought these people up before. Tamara is kind of by trade an actress, but she's gotten more into writing recently. Ofair he's actually a music producer and a musician, but he's also been, getting into kind of producing writing as well. And he's the one who kind of brought us together to facilitate this group. And I'm kind of I'm the showrunner because I kind of did the most work writing, and I brought Jacob on to write with me. And if we ever get Jacob or one of them on sometime, I'd love to talk about that specifically more in depth. But that's just kind of the setup for our group and this TV show. And the TV show is actually takes place in the world of Orthodox Jews and the Russian mafia and this woman who's caught in between.
Unorthodox would have been a great title for it sounds like.
I know.
I'm so sorry.
So this woman she lives within the Orthodox Jewish community, but she's got a secret. She's not actually Jewish. She was formerly married to like this big Russian mobster, and she sold him out to the FBI.
Good for her.
And so she had to go into witness protection. And she went into this very unique kind of witness protection where she ended up basically in the Orthodox Jewish community, and she's married to the rabbi's brother.
So they obviously think she's Jewish.
Yeah, everybody thinks she's Jewish.
Oh, interesting.
Then there's this whole thing with the rabbi. He's actually kind of corrupt. He's doing some bad things.
Josh, how are you representing your people?
Okay, there's good Jews and there's bad Jews. I don't know what to tell you, all right? It takes place in this community. Anyways, her long-lost Russian sister.
No spoilers.
This is the setup. Her long-lost Russian sister finds her and discovers who she is and threatens to reveal who she is to her community and her family and her husband unless she does a little something for them. A little spying, maybe.
Blackmail.
Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, like she's kind of a black sheep within her community. Every character is a black sheep in a certain way. So anyway, that's the setup for that show. So we've written 4 episodes out of a 10-episode season that we've outlined over.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
cool.
We took some time off, especially, during the pandemic, working on other things. We tried to sell the show with what we had. We got close, didn't quite get there for a variety of reasons. But we're like, screw it. We're just going to keep writing this. We have a great story. Let's write the whole season. Maybe we can sell the whole season. I don't know. So we're like, let's do episode 5. So Jacob and I are co-writing. We decided to go on another writer's retreat. This is the 3rd time we've done this. We rent out an Airbnb up in like Lake Arrowhead, and we just spend a weekend basically writing. Previously, we did this for a feature film called Active Shooter, about a father who suspects his own son is a school shooter during an active school shooting. And we did this for another short story. And this time we did it for episode 5 of our TV show. And we wrote, it's supposed to be like 60 pages because it's like a minute a page, basically.
Okay.
And so we were hoping to write 60 pages. We wrote 68.
Wow. That's impressive.
I don't know if that's better. We obviously overwrote.
But that's a lot. That's a lot of pages. Yeah.
But we divided it up. We divided up our scenes from the beat board.
So you write separately? You wrote your own scenes? Or do you sit together and you're like, oh, what should they say now? Well, they'll write this. Or is it a bit of both?
So it depends on
the scene,
what we want to do that day. But basically what we did this time is we each took on half the scenes basically.
Okay.
And wrote that half. But we sat in like the same room. And if we ever had any questions, we just call out to each other and be like, I'm writing this scene.
Yeah.
What do you think of this? Does that make sense? Are we remembering this correctly? We stayed in touch.
And those interruptions don't upset you?
It's been fun. There were obviously funny moments where we're like in the middle of something and it's like, what?
Yeah.
I just want to know, would this character say this? Oh. It's like, I don't know, man. But you wrote the last scene with that character. I get fine. Fine. I was in the middle of a sentence, but what?
Right.
And we do it. But anyway, we got through the whole thing. It was a really great experience. And I should mention that prior to this, what really helped, we're talking about outlining. The way we outlined it is we did a beat board, a visual beat board, and Tamar kind of led the beat board. She was in control of that, ordered everything, colored everything, made sure we knew all the storylines. So we had a map to work off of. But yeah, it very much helped us going to a different environment. And also the fact that we put money into it means we'd better finish this thing.
Yeah.
We get distractions otherwise in our normal lives, in our homes.
Right. It kind of sets up a certain amount of accountability. It's like, why did I waste money on that if I didn't do the thing that I paid to do?
Yeah.
It's a smart idea.
It helps you really commit. Oh. It was so successful, so wildly successful that we're like, oh my God, we're doing this every month till we finish the season.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
And you were there with the puppy.
Yeah.
Well, not a puppy, a dog, but.
Well, yeah, Jacob brought his dog and the dog's amazing. Yeah. Her name's Sweetie.
Oh. I remember you going also to like 24-hour like internet cafes or like places or cafes in general. So do you like a busy environment? Because to me, that seems like very counterproductive. But I mean, it's every person is kind of a little different maybe.
So yeah, you're talking about environments and changing your environment. I think it does help to just put yourself in a different environment that is meant in your mind for writing. Mm-hmm. So I would go to these like Korean coffee shops that were open 24 hours or really late. And yeah, I would go there and I would write either with a friend or all night, especially if you just put yourself somewhere where you're dedicated to doing that, especially if you don't make it easy for yourself to leave. I remember way back in undergrad, you have to study for an exam and have to read, a textbook and highlight a bunch of stuff. It's so easy to get distracted. And I would always wait till like the last minute because that's how I am. And so what I would do is I would go to Weldon Library. You remember Weldon, the big concrete building?
Yeah, I still go to Western, right? Yes, I know where Weldon Library is.
Oh, I'm sorry. For me, it's like way back in the past. For you, it's every day.
Well, I don't really go there.
But it's like a maze in there. It's like many levels and you can get lost in there.
Okay. If you don't know your way around, I guess.
Okay. Well, I guess I didn't know my way around. So that's a good thing for me because I would bury myself deep in Weldon Library and then I would start studying and writing. And then like, I'd want to go, of course. I'd be like, oh, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And then I'd be like, how do I get out of here?
Oh my God.
And then of course,
then you're like, I might as well just stay.
I might as well stay. And that just kind of speaks to our accessibility side of things. We like things to be accessible. So you want to make writing or your work in general, you want to make it the more accessible thing because it's always more accessible not to do work in most cases.
Yeah.
So that's what I think putting yourself in these environments, different environments is really good. I made writing the most accessible thing by going on this writer's retreat.
That's more appealing to me than, the writer's retreat to me is appealing, but I have a lot of needs. Like I need to not have to think about like, for example, like studying at Weldon, I always got way less work done because I would be like, I have to go to the bathroom. Do I pack my stuff up or do I have someone with me who can watch my stuff? Or like, do I have to just trust that someone's like,
I just took risks.
Well, yeah,
risk taker.
That's a possibility too. But then it's like, I hate their washrooms there. And then I'm like, do I go to the farther washroom? Why don't I just work from home where I have a washroom right next to me? Or like, I'm thirsty. Everything costs money. You have to go. I have too many physical needs. I can't just like, or like too many practical needs where I'm like, this chair is really uncomfortable, or that person smells. People have all these different smells really bother me too. Like I can't handle all that.
So Weldon Library isn't for you, but like some place might
No,
be.
but in general, because like also setting up, like if I set up somewhere else that isn't my home, it means I'm on a laptop. It means like I don't have as much space. It means I don't have all the unlimited coffee and snacks that I want. I'm hungry every 2 hours. So like it's not convenient. I end up spending more money. And yeah, I am stuck in this place, but like it's hard for me to get lost in something when there are things around me, if there are people around me.
Okay, so you prefer your home environment. You actually like the isolated.
Much prefer my home environment.
Yeah, so that works for you, and that's fine. People obviously can work in their home environment.
Yeah. I like my cat next to me.
I have, and I do work. If I only worked on writers' retreats, then I would never have gotten anything done, obviously.
Right, of course, yeah. It is easier to get distracted at home.
Yeah, like we wrote those 4 episodes over a number of years, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously there's revisions and stuff. This 5th episode, we wrote now first draft in 3 days.
Wow.
Because we committed to this retreat.
Right.
It's just about the efficiency of it all and the dedication. It's kind of saying, I'm going to go all out for these 3 days.
Well, yeah, I like that idea. I guess post-pandemic or whatever, but like just renting out a little place, just me and my kitty, and we'll just hang out there and write.
And putting money into it or something, so you have to.
Yeah, it's like I have to.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. I mean,
I like it.
I do recommend it, but again, everybody is different, and I would never tell somebody else how they should.
Well, it's more suggestions. Everybody gets to figure out what works for them.
Well, what is it? What keeps you from writing, Aya? What is the thing that? What do you find is the hardest thing to get going? Let's tackle this right now.
I don't want to. It's the hardest thing. It's work. And whenever I sit down, it's like, oh, I could do this thing or I could do that thing. Is this really important? Am I really going to write anything good? Probably not. I should probably prepare more. I should probably do this. I should probably do that. Oh, look what time it is. I have to do this other thing. Bye. Like, it's so easy to prioritize something else, or like, I shouldn't be doing this right now. Like right now, what's stopping me is like, I have some marking to do. I have some French I have to like, I have legitimate things that I have to do. And I'm like, if I'm going to be sitting at my computer, I should be doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing.
Right. So is it because it's not segmented in your mind as something you need to do?
Probably.
So for example, if you say, I could be doing this instead, then you haven't actually carved out a time for you to do it.
No.
If you actually say at this time, at this place, I'm going to be writing, that's what this is for. It will take priority over whatever else you need to do. Like, okay, I got to finish my marketing later because I'm here to do this.
Right.
It actually is a priority because you dedicated the time and space for it. That's what the writing retreat kind of helped me do, at least.
Right. Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I should be doing my laundry. There's no laundry here. I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah.
I took myself here to purposefully not allow, somebody else needs my help doing something. Sorry, I'm away.
Yeah. No, that's a good idea. I think that seems pretty key. One last question. I feel like I've interviewed you this entire time.
It feels more like interviewing now. Are you really just trying to this is all just to help you finish writing your book, right?
I was looking for a little inspiration. I really do enjoy talking to you about writing. I guess I mean, I feel like we could talk about it for hours, but I don't know how much of it would be interesting to other people. So I'm trying to condense it into something that would be listenable for other people. But
I think this stuff is fascinating, obviously, personally, but it's
of course, but that's because it's what you do.
Obviously, I went into this as like a career, and I take all these writing courses, and I write a lot more. So there's probably more for me to kind of share in that regard.
I'm a little bit envious, by the way. I part of me wishes I had gone down that route and just like committed.
That's okay. I'm envious of the fact that you can pay rent really easily.
Right. I mean, there's pros and cons to each choice. I mean, compared to most people my age or our age, sorry, I should say, I'm not like a person who easily pays rent. Like I'm still very like low on that totem pole, but that's fine. Continue.
So you're writing this culty story, right?
It's not a culty story. It's more okay. Like it's not, I don't have enough of it to like condense it into anything, but sure. The back story of the main character is of a cult in her family. That's her backstory. By
the way, I've noticed that for me, what really helps get me going is bouncing ideas, sharing and talking about the idea. And that gets me like excited.
Sometimes it takes out all my steam because I'm like, I already explained it. I don't feel like writing it now.
It's not just about explaining it. It's about once you start talking with somebody, you start sharing ideas back and forth. And you should absolutely steal as much from the people around you as you can when you talk about ideas.
What?
Yes.
Josh, what are you saying? So anything I tell you, so now the next movie you have, Oh yeah, the main character has a cult family backstory. What? Yeah,
No,
what are
that's
you
not what I
talking about?
mean. I mean, if I'm actually fishing for ideas, let's say you're talking to me and I come up with an idea for your character that you were kind of stuck at.
Right.
Use that. Yeah. Take whatever you want from that.
Oh, well, you're giving it. I'm not stealing it. You're giving it.
I just
don't
mean
say
like,
steal.
don't think that you have to come up with literally every part of it yourself. It doesn't.
Right. No, I understand that.
You can bounce ideas with other people. I think that's a great thing during writing. And people who isolate themselves and just keep to themselves, when you get stuck, you get stuck. It's hard to like move past that. When I get stuck, I just talk to somebody.
I think getting stuck is when you ask for help. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So actually, I do find having somebody around to write around, if not with, be really useful.
I can't have anybody near me because even the possibility that they might interrupt me is like a thing. I need to know that nobody's going to interrupt me. I know I sound crazy.
You get your headphones on, you get like noise canceling.
I have my headphones on. I have like specific type of music playing. Like at least, I mean, that was at least for like thesis writing, but I mean, it's just kind of the same.
Does music help you write?
Oh, good question. I feel like we've probably mentioned this, but yeah, specifically instrumental and like certain ones. So I have like specific playlists that are just called like writing 2020 or writing 2021.
You're like my friend Leopold. It's classical.
Sometimes classical. Usually like it'll be kind of soft piano or like soundtracks. Sometimes it'll be a little more intense. Kind of depends on my mood, but it's always instrumental. Any words, like totally, I can't listen to that.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I find I'll listen to stuff, all kinds of stuff. And instead of finding music to help me write something specific, the music will often guide me.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I kind of like, I'll be in different moods, but I'll just be like, oh, I don't feel like listening to that song right now. Or I'll just be like, whoa, this just took me into like, woo. And it kind of drives it. Yeah. So you also listen to music, is that?
I mean, I'm pretty sure I've had songs actually inspire ideas for short films for me.
Cool.
Like I listened to a song and it gave me an idea and then I made a movie about that. Yeah. Music can be great.
Yeah. So one last question.
What's that last question?
Josh, do you have any writing advice for me and or our listeners? Just a little book, like there's that classic, show don't tell. You kind of gave us one from your film teacher, form over formula.
I thought I was just giving you advice the whole time.
You actually have been, but I had this question written out, so I feel like I should ask you anyways. But if you could only give people one bit of writing advice, what would it be? Because you're a pretty prolific writer. I don't know if you're good or not, but at least you're prolific. That was rude.
You know what I'm going to say?
Yeah, what are you going to say?
As you may or may not know, I had a couple of scripts that did really well this past year. You've
been winning, like you've been on lists and
they were in competitions.
Yeah,
so
competitions. That's it.
Yeah, so the Academy Nickel Fellowships and Screenwriting Competition, that's kind of the biggest one in the world. It's the Academy. I had 2 scripts.
Like they're the ones who give out Academy Awards.
It's Academy, yeah. So I had 2 scripts get placed in that. Usually if you place, that means you're a quarterfinalist, semifinalist, finalist,
that's awesome.
Or fellow for that one as a winner. So if you're just even a quarterfinalist in these, that's considered, oh, cool, you've placed. I had 2 scripts place. One was a quarterfinalist. That's the one I wrote with Jacob, active shooter, which we went to a writer's retreat to initially write. And again, being a quarterfinalist in Nickel is huge.
Yeah.
People actually reach out to you when you're a quarterfinalist. That's like top 350 out of over 8,000.
Wow.
And my other script, Impaled, a love story, was a semifinalist, which that's like top 150.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So after that, the finalists are like top 10.
Right.
Yeah. People definitely were reaching out to me about that. So I had 2 scripts placed. Also, they placed in some other competitions. Impaled also placed as a finalist in Script Pipeline, which is a big one, an active shooter in Scriptapalooza. I think Impaled was also a semifinalist at the Forest City Film Festival, which we went to. So it was Script Pipeline had me write a thing for their website.
A thing, like a synopsis or something?
No, like a thing, like my origin story and my accolade.
Oh, like a bio.
Yeah. So at the bottom of it, it said on being an artist. So what did I want to share?
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
I'll share that with you.
How about you share that? That was a really long way of introducing that. Okay.
I know. so on being an artist. So there's 3 sort of things here that I wrote. Number 1, finish what you start, Aya. 2, don't let anyone be a gatekeeper to your art. You don't need permission and you don't need to reach some imaginary/arbitrary level before you start creating. Just do it.
Oh, that's great. That's very good advice.
And 3, get uncomfortable. If you're waiting for that comfortable, perfect moment, it will never come.
That's great advice.
Then it asked me what I was fueled by. And I said my own mortality.
I mean, that's pretty accurate. One of the things you said to me in our first like conversations about writing was, you're going to die.
Yeah.
Don't you want to have finished this?
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus Christ, Josh, way to be like really intense. Speaking of Jesus Christ, we should mention that we're recording this Christmas Eve.
Oh, it's Christmas Eve.
Or it's Christmas Eve today. So
Merry Christmas.
Happy Jesus birthday.
Happy Jesus Day.
Happy Jesus to all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this has been another episode of Adulthood Friends. Thanks for joining us. If you liked this episode, please listen to all our other episodes. If you haven't already, we have lots there. They're just sitting there waiting for you to listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also got a Facebook page that you can follow and like. Please follow us on whatever your preferred listening
platform,
application, or platform is. So we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Overcast, anywhere. We're everywhere. That's about it. So thanks again. And hopefully Josh will just cut everything somewhere here, and then it'll just be like music-y time.
Music-y time.
Music-y time.
You want me to end your suffering with the music right now?
Please. And I'm not suffering. I'm just worried you're going to be late for your fancy writer meeting.
Oh my God, I got to get to my writers meeting.
Yeah. Are you not realizing? Yeah, it's 2:52. You got to go.
Oh, I got to prepare. I got to prep and stuff.
You have to go.
The irony of us talking about writing when I actually have to get to a writing meeting with my group.
Bye.
Bye.
That won't say it. Please cut that up.